Now this could be more user-friendly, and as you say, you type noun, it will show what Zulu has about 17 times 3 or something different types of nouns, similar to the gender system of some European languages, except there are 17 instead of 2 or 3. So that's really all it is. If it's not a nice word, you can just reject it, or if you don't feel like working on it, you can ignore it. And that's really the whole piece of software. That's all it is to it. It was meant to be really a productive environment with only keyboard interaction. You can just type, and it will, if you get, instead of with time, you get and time later on, which is necessitated just without the G. And if you start to type the root, it will try to complete it for you, that you don't need to retype the words unnecessarily. But really, the technology of how it works is perhaps not that interesting for you unless you're really going to go into it. I can show it to you later if you're really interested. But this is what we developed with the idea that we don't have an existing word list, even just knowing something is a noun or a verb or whatever the case may be. And we really want to know if something is class 1 noun, class 2, 3, 4, up to 17, what type of a verb it is, and so on, because the spell checker needs to know all of that. And this was just meant as a very productive way. This work is still ongoing. We have a Zulu spell checker provisionally, but it is still in development. So this is some of the contact information of our organization, and for the African Localization.net is the website of ANLOC, the African Network for Localization. You'll get some more information there on some of the organizations taking part and some of the software that was developed, or terminology lists that might be available, or just how to reach these communities, and an email address for our organization. I believe there's a little bit of time for questions. Obviously also for Bertel.
Maybe we do first Marathon and then questions.
Okay, yes.
Did you say your name again? Or
sorry, my name is Friedel. Well, sorry, I realized I didn't introduce myself.
Maybe on the board.
Sorry, I realized I couldn't put that into the good edition.
So I'm back. And now we're talking about a lot of technology. Let's talk about what we're going to do. Oops. As you have seen, what Friedel has been saying, part of what he's been saying, I was thinking to tell you that Friedel he has told you from a completely different environment that the problems are the same. Missing material. There is no raw stuff on which you can work on automated procedure. So you have to collect it somehow. And you have very, very little human power you can use, because when a community is a small community, maybe they are very jealous of their culture and their language, but they are going to perceive socially their language as underlining red. It's a social stigma that they have when they go out. We used to be beaten in school if we were speaking my own native language. It does happen all over the world in many places, and even if you don't get beaten, in most places, if you don't speak the big language, people are going to look on you because you're sort of from the country or whatever, you know. So you're really underlining red. And maybe you even feel bad about it, but when it gets to doing the dirty job or writing down a couple of million words, people are maybe going to be very politically motivated in saying that, yeah, you should do it. Now, will you write down a couple of words for me? Oh yeah, tomorrow, I promise, tomorrow. Just the first one, tomorrow will be there, and you can wait that tomorrow for about 2 million years. But it's not going to happen, because it's actually a boring thing. And that's the truth. I mean, we are asking people to do what can only happen normally in big languages, because big languages have enough people so that you can even find Mr. Madman, who is so crazy that he can really sit down and write a billion words for the sake of it. That's because he is abnormal, and in a big quantity you can even find an abnormal person like this. In this whole community, your chances to find a madman are definitely reduced. So this is what we addressed. Our problem was to make the possibility of meeting Mr. Madman or Mrs. Madman, whatever, madwoman, sorry, easier. It's not easy to find him, scout him out. Not many people are going to volunteer and say, yeah, I'm abnormal. And we need to find him. We need to give this person the possibility to show up the abnormality in himself. So what we said is that, okay, we're going to do a crazy thing. We're going to make our work be really productive. Instead of making one dictionary, we're going to make them all. So what we do, we start from a basic cognitive approach. It is the approach of the cat. You have the cat. And this is ideograms, basically, like the old Egyptians would probably write down a cat. And this cat is supposed to exist outside mankind. I mean, he's been there for a long time before we developed languages, scripts, and whatever. He was a cat, he was catching mice, and he doesn't give a damn the way we call it. Right? So this is reality. Then you have a number of people who are saying cat, others are saying coat, I say God, and we can say it in an incredible number of different ways, which are morphologically different, but in the end they all boil down to meow down here. That's the idea, right? Well, this is not true. It's not totally true. Because from some of this culture, a cat can end up in a frying pan. For others, he is sacred. For something else, he is simply unheard of, because the climate doesn't permit the cat to live there, so that they know that he is only in this form, and he is probably meeting with Bob the Builder or something else, but he is not really living. So there is what we call a profile. A profile is the emerging thing, the cat, as we can see it, and a lot of implicit information, which is potentially infinite, that lays behind it. And this potentially infinite information that lays behind it, it's so fine-grained that in the end it's personal. It's not even culture related, it's individual related. When I design a cat, I like cats, I always have cats, maybe some of you hate them. So I'm doing something that is fine for me, and maybe I called up a negative emotion in somebody else, because maybe you have an allergy or whatever else. That happens. So I'm giving you a sign that is supposed to be universal, and I make a drawing, supposing that by this way I can bypass the language, and I was going to give you a positive message, because that's something that I consider positive. Maybe you've just been scratched by a cat who had a bad infection, and what I end up doing is provoking you into you a depression, which is exactly what I don't want to do. But it's still possible. So when we think of translating, we have to keep this in mind. There is a limited space in significance that we can translate, and that's the meowing cat that we have here. Okay, we can go to that. But we cannot translate what's the cat, my cat, with her cat, his cat. They're all going to be different cats. And the very cat is going to be changed then. That's the funny thing with it. You don't think that it's only my perception of the cat. My perception of the cat changes the cat. If you live in Western Europe, a cat is going to answer to a call that is basically, at least in Italy, we all call them like this. And they come because they know that that means they're going to be food.
Yeah, holidays.
But if you live in a Slavic country, you can do that as long as you want. A cat will not react, because there they all do. So that's the part of the language that the cat has learned in order to communicate with you.